Hey friends, welcome back to another video, or welcome if this is your first time here. My name is Ahya and I love to talk about all things cozy and books and tea, but today I don't have tea with me. I have some fresh iced water. In today's video I have a collection of some of the recent books that I've bought and purchased, and I'm so excited to share them with you all. I've read a couple of them already actually, because some time has passed since I bought them initially, but I hope you don't mind if I've talked to you about them before. Most of them are spring related, I'd say, and they're very dreamy and wholesome, some fantasy, some classics. I can't wait to share them with you all. I hope you're as excited as I am, and so let's get into the video. First up, I have not one but two copies of Ian Forster's A Room with a View, and of course this is a classic and I've been really enjoying reading it. I'm about 60% of the way through, I think, of the book, and I'm reading it via an ebook through Everand. I really feel like this book is haunting me a little. It's been so difficult to get my hands on the edition that I want. This was the initial design that Penguin released for A Room with a View, and I love this one so much. But lately they re-updated it to this more abstract cover, and to be honest, I don't think it's not that bad, but I just don't love it as much as the initial one. I feel like this one with the lady, the parasol, and the nature and the flowers, the hills, this just feels so much more timeless, and it feels actually a lot more true to the actual atmosphere of the book, I feel anyways. At Waterstones though, this is the only copy that they sell now. They don't sell this version anymore. So I was on the hunt on Vinted for a second-hand copy and I managed to come across this one. However, when this copy arrived, I was so upset because I don't know if you can tell, but there's a little bit of like book mold, or I don't know what that is, but anyways, the inside pages, there are like dead bugs as well squished in between. You don't need to see that, but I was a little bit grossed out by the condition of the book, and there were no photos of that to show in the initial listing. So I did manage to get a full refund on this book. And then the reason why I ended up with this copy is because I was on World of Books and they had the cover for this book, but what arrived was this one. From what I've heard, Penguin Classics haven't updated the ISBN number, so the cover is on all the product listings are still this one, but they're sending out this newly updated one. So I don't think it's World of Books' fault. Waterstones had the same issues. I've ended up now with a cover that I don't like and a slightly gross version. I will say though that I did manage to find another copy of this one, another second-hand one on Vinted for about £5, and so hopefully that one will come in good condition and I can give these copies to my local free library or the charity shops near me as well. Maybe that I'm lucky I'll manage to get the cover I want. To tell you a little bit about the book itself though, this book follows a girl called Lucy Honeychurch, and she is visiting Italy, specifically Florence, and then a little bit of time in Rome, and she's being chaperoned by her cousin Charlotte, who's very prim and proper and very socially a bit uptight. In Italy though, Lucy ends up meeting George Emerson, and George belongs to a lower class and is socially a little bit more unconventional, or at least his dad is. When Lucy comes back to the UK though, she finds herself engaged to a very supercilious man called Mr. Cecil Vyse. A Room with a View is not only a love story, but it's also a social commentary and social comedy talking about Edwardian societal values and the contrast in values between the different classes. And so I've been thoroughly enjoying it, like I've mentioned before. It's very thin, and I hope to finish this very soon. Next up is Emily Bronte's The Complete Poems, and this book, you might have noticed in my latest videos, it's been coming up a lot in my videos because I've been making my way very slowly through it, and I just, another beautiful book. Like, look how pretty these are together. I wish Penguin did more of these nature photos, and paintings are just so beautiful. And I should note that A Room with a View I feel like is a perfect read for these warmer days and spring summertime, and Emily Bronte's The Complete Poems also features so much nature. I struggle with poetry quite a bit actually. I think it just shows my ignorance when it comes to poetry, but if it's not in rhyme, I really have a hard time reading it, and I really struggle with contemporary poetry especially. But these more nature-filled, more classic poems are some of the ones that I really am able to relate to, as the ones I feel very moved and touched by. I can understand them as well. They're not so abstract and they're very lyrical and beautiful. So yes, I really recommend picking this one up if you're looking for a wonderful, luscious, passionate and longing filled collection of poems. Milky wanted to join us, and so he's lounging on my lap right now. Milky gets really jealous if I'm giving attention to someone or something else other than him, and so he always insists on joining me whenever I'm filming. But yes, he is on my lap right now, so if you see something fluffy, that is him. The next book I have is The Baron in the Trees by Calvino. I just came back from a trip to Rome with my family, and of course we had to stop by some bookshops. I didn't get to visit as many bookshops as I would have liked to, but the one that we did manage to visit was I can't remember what it's called. I think it's the Otherworld bookshop. I'll leave a link down below to the bookshop. I knew that I wanted to pick from an Italian author, and this is also going to be my first Calvino. I don't really know anything about this book other than it's a little bit of fantasy and magical realism. It's supposed to be a little bit odd as well, as magical realism tends to be. I try not to read the backs of the books, but because I don't know anything about this one, and I bought this literally just based off the blurb because it sounded magical, so I hope you don't mind. It says, from the age of 12, the Baron Cosimo Piovasco de Ronde makes his home among ash, elm, magnolia, plum and almond, living up in the trees. He walks through paths made from the twisted branches of olive, makes his bed in holly oak, bathes in a fountain constructed from poplar bark. An aerial library holds the books with which he educates himself in philosophy and mathematics. Suspended among the leaves, the Baron adventures with bandits and pirates, conducts a passionate love affair, and watches the age of enlightenment pass by beneath him. This is a playful, romantic fable by one of the 20th century's master storytellers, and that sounded so wonderful and dreamy to me and exactly what I wanted. So yes, I can't wait to read this and I have high hopes for it. Next up I have Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros, and of course this is the book that everyone's already probably read and I'm the only one who hasn't, but I have been wanting to find the paperback version of this book because I think it's beautiful. My lovely friend and I, we read, we have a buddy reading system, sort of like a monthly book club where we pick out a book together to read, and so far we've read Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. We've read Throne of Glass and the Cruel Prince trilogy, but yes, this month we're reading Fourth Wing and I'm so excited. I believe it's got dragons, it's got a dragon riding like an academy sort of setting, which I love a good magical school setting. I'm excited for the romance in it, and I'm a bit concerned because I've heard that it has a little bit of spice in it, and I'm not a fan of spice in books at all. I prefer clean books as a Christian, and so yes, a bit worried about that, but we can always just skip through those little bits. But I do love a good romance anyway, so yes, Fourth Wing, I can't wait to read this. Next up is a book that I've mentioned I think in like the last 2 videos on my channel, so I do apologise if I'm repeating anything, but this is The Easy Life in Kamasari by Shion Yura, and it's a translated novel from the Japanese into English. As you can tell, I've already gone through it all and I've sticky tabbed everything, and I just really enjoyed my time with this book. I did initially start reading this as an audiobook, and I just want to say the audiobook narrator is incredible, and I believe his name is Brian Nishi. He is such an incredible audiobook narrator. He just brought everything to life. He brought Yuki, the main character, to life. I loved being able to hear all the Japanese villages and Japanese sayings in the native pronunciation. As soon as I started the audiobook, I knew that I wanted a physical copy as well, so hence why it's in this book haul. It's a lovely book for spring, and I've talked a little bit about my thoughts on it in my latest video, so do watch that if you want to hear why I didn't give it 5 stars but why it's a comfort read for me now. Just briefly, it follows Yuki, and Yuki is fresh out of high school. He doesn't know what he wants to do with his life, and so his parents enroll him, sort of force him to enroll in this forestry training program deep in the woods, in the mountains and the forests of Japan. It's the last place he wants to be as a city boy, and there's no Wi-Fi, there's nothing, but he ends up falling in love with the village and the villagers very slowly. I mentioned previously though that it does read a little bit like non-fiction at times, so it is something to keep in mind. Where do you want to go, Milk? Okay, he's gone. Anyways, I thoroughly enjoyed it. It's great to read in spring because there's a scene all about the cherry blossoms in this village. It has a little bit of magical realism in it with Japanese folk tales and legends. I really enjoyed it, and maybe you'll enjoy it too. The next book I have to share with you all is Miss Newbury's List by Megan Walker, and I have also read this book already, but I wanted a physical copy of it, and I found one on Vinted, which really excited me because I couldn't find this book on Vinted at all for months, and I finally came across it, so I'm happy to have it now. This is one of those books that have now become a comfort read for me, and I can see myself rereading and revisiting these characters time and time again. This book takes place in England in 1820 and follows Rosalind Newbury, and Rosalind is marrying a duke for the sake of her family, for the sake of family connections and expectations. And so one of the things that she has on her bucket list really before she gets married is a list of 10 things, hence Miss Newbury's List, 10 things that she wants to accomplish before she gets married. As she is trying to fulfill this list, she comes across her best friend's cousin called Charlie, and Charlie is a bit of a social outcast. He seems to have a little bit of a problematic relationship with his own family, and so we get to explore Rosalind and Charlie as they become very close friends and more than friends, and it's just so beautiful to see them let go of societal expectations and prejudice, to see their relationship blossoming as well. Of course, because of it, it's a wonderful read to read during spring and summer days, so I thoroughly enjoyed it and I can't wait to reread it again very soon. Next up is this adorable manga called Hakume and Mikuchi, and it's by Takuto Kashiki, and I featured this in my spring TBR video, did I? Was it my spring TBR? I think so. But I mentioned how I really wanted to read this during spring and summer this year because it's so sweet. I wasn't sure if I was going to buy this or not this year, but I caved in eventually, and I don't have any manga series to read right now, so I thought this was a wonderful one to read this season. All I know from the back of this book is that it follows these two girls, or forest sprites I think they are, but they're very small. They're called Hakume and Mikuchi, and they live deep in a lush forest, and it just follows them. It's a slice of life, I think, in their day-to-day lives, what they get up to in the forest. They ride bugs for transportation, they use leaves as their umbrellas, so I think it's just going to be a very wholesome and dreamy book to read. Next up I have A Fellowship of Bakers and Magic by J. Penner, and I'm about halfway, or a little more than halfway through this book right now, and this is my little sticky tab section as my bookmark. This book is a cozy fantasy following a girl called Arletta, and she is a human girl and she loves to bake using the herbs in her garden. She is entered into a competition by her neighbours, and it's a baking competition, a very prestigious one, and she wasn't expecting it, but here she ends up making some lovely friends. She also ends up forming a bit of a thing with an elf as well. Because of all the baking competition in it, this book really reminded me of the Great British Bake Off, and so in that way it's very cozy and wholesome. But so far I think whilst it is very cozy and fun and light-hearted, it's very fluffy as well, it's just not got that much depth to it. Because I've been reading lots of classics lately, I think this book is just feeling a little bit too fluffy and too light for me. And don't get me wrong, I love fluffy, light-hearted books. Some of my favourite ones are light-hearted, but I think this one, in terms of the writing style, is just a little bit too juvenile for me maybe. But on the whole, I am really enjoying it as well. It's just a very light-hearted read to get through. The next book I have is a Christian non-fiction book called Faithfully Present, and it's by Adam Ramsey. And I bought this book because I'm a part of our women's church book club at church. We actually ended up reading Adam Ramsey's Truth on Fire together as well a couple of months ago, and I loved that book. It was so powerful and so challenging, convicting, so I hope this book will do the same. This is all about how to remain faithful to God in the present, in the now, and I have such a huge issue with being unable to really thrive in the moment, not rushing through life. Currently I'm on chapter 3 now, and this is my little sticky tabs that match with the cover. But already I've been so challenged and convicted in the first 2 chapters, and so I'm really looking forward to finishing it, and I really hope that it continues to be thought-provoking and make some real change in my own heart and my life as well. I'll just read a snippet of something that I highlighted because I thought it was incredible. It says, "You need not serve time nor fear its march when you serve the one whom time serves. You exist within time, but you do not belong to time. You belong to Jesus. When you are overwhelmed by the passage of time or underwhelmed with the lack of ripeness that your present season possesses, remind your heart who time itself belongs to. The duration of all time and of our time is in God's hands." Last but not least, I have The Secret Garden by Frances Hodgson Burnett, and I've mentioned before how I really want to read this classic, this middle grade classic in spring this year. It has been on my spring TBR for so long now, and now that I have a wonderful brand new copy of it as well, it's just so pretty. Look at that. Oh, look at the fox. But yes, it really makes me want to pick it up all the more. Of course, this book follows a girl called Mary, and Mary is a very spoilt, selfish child. She has been sent to Misselthwaite Manor, where her uncle, I believe, yes, it's her uncle's country estate, because she is now an orphan, unfortunately. But as a very disagreeable child, she is determined to hate her stay there. But as time passes and as she ends up exploring the garden and the country surroundings, she ends up having her heart that was cold, it thaws a little, and she meets friends, and through the garden blossoming we also see her blossoming as a child as well, with warmth and friendship, etc. So I really need to read this year. It's been on my TBR for far too long. That was all the books that I've recently purchased over there. I love that it's a bit of everything. We had classics, middle grade, some fantasy, a little bit of romance as well, magical realism too. So that just goes to show, I think, that my reading taste is a little bit of everything. I like a bit of everything. But yes, I hope you enjoyed this whole video, and I'd love to know what your latest book purchase was as well. So let me know in the comments down below, and thank you so much for watching, friends. Bye!